ambassadorship in the nail industry. Is it worth it? Watch this episode with Mutsa and find out.
It's time for open communication, regardless of location. Make your very own formulation. That beauty might save the world. You can trade in your frustration for caffeinated correlation. Commence the investigation. That beauty might save the world.
Mutsa is somebody that I have followed for a little while now. Her mind, her artistic mind blows me away. The way she thinks of designs, she is incredible, and she is so down to earth and lovely. So I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we enjoyed chatting. We had to cut out a massive chunk because we were talking for a long time, but everything else is in there, and I hope you find this entertaining. I hope you find this useful, and if you do, please make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and let me know that you enjoy this type of content.
Okay, so first question I have for you is, what are you drinking?
I'm having squash. I'm literally having squash. I'm on like a really not strict diet. I'm just like terrible with food. So like at the moment I'm trying to like eat a bit cleaner. So I'm having like this like farmer's market type like homemade squash situation. So like syrup and water basically. But it's really nice. It's lemon and elderflower. What about you?
Jasmine green tea, my favorite.
Nice.
How are you?
I am okay. I'm good. I think I mentioned that I'm kind of trying to figure out what I want to do in the nail space. At the moment, I'm kind of deciding to like take a little step back, focus on like learning, sort of growing and like evolving my craft a little bit. I feel a little bit stunted, so I've just got like all these workshops and stuff that I'm really excited to get into. I'm just like, it sounds so cringy. I'm just like very excited to learn, you know, I'm just like really excited to learn and like grow, and just kind of take that next step for myself, I think. So I think I've decided in order to be able to do that, the best thing to do is kind of to focus on content less. But yeah, I'm good. I'm like, I feel like I'm in a good place. I'm in a good place. How are you?
Yeah, and I'm good too. And learning is good. Do you know what? I love it. I
Mm.
love doing new like courses and workshops, and even sometimes you know half of the stuff that they're kind of telling you. But it's
Yeah.
just nice taking it all in
Mm.
and
Mhm.
just, I don't know, I guess progressing, kind of leveling
Mhm.
up.
Yes,
So
yes, exactly.
yeah, I think it'll be good for you. It will be a shame to
Thank you.
see less content from you because your
Mm.
content is incredible.
Thank
But
you.
you know, you've got to do what works for you. And I think
Hmm.
that's the most important thing.
Hmm.
Where do you find your inspiration?
So it's it sounds really basic, but like Pinterest, I think I got this question, well, I actually get it quite a lot, whether it's on Instagram or on YouTube, which is the only other platform that I'm on. But it's Pinterest and Vogue.com. I literally live on both of those websites. I'm like a fashion baby at heart. It's kind of like within my family, and then I also went to fashion school. And I really wanted to be like a menswear designer. It's funny because I always say like, oh, I don't have a creative background, but I've always been more like technical. So even though I've done like textiles and stuff, I was more aligned with the marketing side of things. Like I was very excited about like numbers and advertising. Like I was very excited about money. So I think that's kind of the direction that I took, but I've always been obsessed with fashion. So like Vogue.com just makes sense because I used to buy the magazine, and of course now it's mostly digital. So if it's not there, then it's Pinterest, and Pinterest really is just like a cocktail of all the other content that I consume, whether it's on YouTube or on Instagram, or if I come across stuff on Twitter. When I used to use Twitter, I don't use it as much anymore. Or on Vogue. It's really just like where I organize all my thoughts and where I discover other things. So I'd say those are the two main places that I find inspiration.
I love that video that you did on YouTube about that topic. This is why I was like,
Mhm.
should I ask you that? Because you've done such an in-depth video about this. But I thought, you know what, we're having a little catch up and you can,
Mhm.
say it all again.
Mhm.
But yeah, I absolutely agree with like Pinterest because you can just create your board and then there's tiny little subcategories and you can add
Mhm.
notes and I love it. If it's not on Pinterest, I don't want it.
I really envy people who can see inspiration in everything. Like I've got friends who will go to like, like vintage stores or like thrift stores, I guess if you're American, and like find like old makeup books or like old watercolor books or like architecture. And like we'll go on holidays and just find inspiration in anything. Like if I go on holiday, if I go outside, I'm very like on a mission. Like I don't it's really bad, but like I don't know if it's just kind of the way my personality works is I'm just like I feel like I get really passionate about things if I can just be looking at one thing. So if I go out with a mission, I'm focused on that mission. Like I don't really look at anything else. But people will be like, yeah, I just was in this gallery and this frame inspired me. And I'm like, I'm like looking at what's inside the frame. And even then, like I should take inspiration from that, but I'm like thinking about what it means to me or like where the artist, got its inspiration from. I'm not thinking about being inspired in that way. I don't know why, but like if it isn't on like a Pinterest board, or if I'm not looking through like a runway collection or like the season's, like most popular bags or jewelry and things like that, it just doesn't seem to ignite any kind of, yeah, inspiration in me.
No love for it.
No, there isn't. It's strange. But yeah, if it's on Pinterest, I'm like, sometimes it's something as simple as like an eyeshadow look, and I'm just like, yes, that. But if the
Mhm.
person was stood in front of me, I probably wouldn't even make the connection. Very odd, but yeah.
And everyone finds their own kind of inspiration and how they find
Mhm.
it and how they kind of translate it into their own art. And I think you really think outside of the box. I'm a lot more like, okay, here is a Barbie. I'm going to draw this Barbie or this Barbie logo. Whereas you're like, hey, let's do 5 days of Barbies. And you just come out with all these looks. And I'm like, thought of that. So no, you really think outside of the box. So even though you're Pinterest or Vogue
Mhm.
boxed,
Mhm.
you're doing amazing. So you found the thing that works for you, and that's good. That's how it should be. No
Oh, thank
stress.
you.
The other thing that I wondered about is because obviously you get to use a lot of different products. You use,
Mhm.
you've worked with different brands, you've done content creation, so you've got a lot of different things.
Mhm.
How do you decide for that look what products to use?
So this one is really, really tricky actually, and I think on the topic of working with brands, I find it really hard to work with brands because when you're working with a brand, sometimes well, not sometimes, most of the time you have to think product first almost. Like I struggle to think like, oh, I have these colors, this is what I'm going to do. Whereas I think more like this is the design, and then I know exactly what colors I'm going to use. And then depending on what I have in my kit, that's kind of how I work. I think I am really lucky in that I've been able to like touch and like work with lots of different tools and products and things. So I do have, even though I don't work product first, I do have a better idea of what I can reach for if I want to work specifically on like art or if I need like a wash of color. I think that's really helped. But to me, I think the biggest thing has always been working with what I've got. Like when I started out, I just had like one of these teeny tiny like Model Ones kits from like Amazon, and I had never done any nail art. I didn't really draw much either. Like even when I was doing design in textiles, I did a lot of the stuff digitally, like on Photoshop. I never really put like pen to paper. So I think I also just like thought very pragmatically as well, in that like you can't just buy lots of stuff until you really are quite passionate about this. So there was already a sense of like you've got to make what you've got work and then kind of when you feel like you have some direction, then look for specific products. I think now, if there's a design I'm really excited about, I just gravitate towards art gels very kind of
Yeah.
instantly, which I think most of us do. Um, but sometimes I'm really like glad to be surprised and shocked when I get whether I purchase or I'm gifted like overlay gels, and they are amazing for art. Like a brand that I used to always shout out was Miley, because they're black and they're white. That's just like a kind of standard like an overlay gel. And they're for DIYers as well. Like they're not really considered like strictly pro products. Just the pigmentation and how they work against various like colors, and how they sit obviously before you've put like a matte top coat on or anything like that. Yeah, I think because I started off as being like I have to make this work, and then I've also been very privileged to work with really great quality products. I think I've kind of learned that like quality doesn't really mean expensive, but also if you can use something that's super high quality, definitely reach for that, because that makes your job easier. I don't know if that answered your question, but yeah, I think
It
that's kind of how I
answered,
think about it.
you gave us a lot of information there. And the thing is, here's a controversial thing to say. When I first started, I bought a lot of my gel polishes when gel polish first started
Hmm.
from China. I ordered mine on like eBay and I bought a lot of, I think the brand was called Canny or something like that. Anyway,
Hmm.
a long time ago. But the thing is, that's when I first started, I didn't want to put loads of money into this business that I didn't know if it was going to work.
For sure.
Now, looking back at it, again, is very controversial because the ingredients that were in these products were maybe not 100% amazing.
Hmm.
But when you're first starting out and you're not even sure if this is the way you want to go, you've got to take and get what you can afford in that time to
For
see if that
sure.
passion is worth doing it.
Hmm.
Because after that, what happened was I started to look into different gel brands and I went with Madam Glam
Hmm.
and they were amazing because they did this little box where you would get three polishes, gel polishes every month in like a
Hmm.
subscription box, and it was amazing. It was sorry, I've got flying hair. Told you this was going to be relaxed. So those were coming in, and I slowly started replacing those like cheap things with better quality. But I
Hmm.
think there's so much pressure on beginners to start off with a lot because of
Yeah.
what they see on places like Instagram. And although I love
Hmm.
Instagram, I like that bit of perfection. It does harm people because it makes you puts you into this bubble of thinking I've got to have everything because if I don't, my clients are not going to come to me. They're going to go down and see I don't know Annie down the road because I don't have everything they want me to have, and that's so
Hmm.
not true because you can get like I remember I was trying to be clever with what products you can have. See, we've completely gone off topic now. With what products I would have because I couldn't afford to buy all these things. So what
Yeah.
I went with was pigments
Hmm.
because you can mix them in with your black and with your
Yeah.
white
Hmm.
and clear and mix your
Hmm.
own custom colors, any micro
Hmm.
powders, things like flakes because you can change those up, any iridescent glitters, all of
Hmm.
that was in my kit. And I had a very small kit,
Hmm.
but I made it work because you
Yeah.
would mix your own colors, do it yourself.
I
Uh,
love that.
yeah, you do what you have to do, but the thing is people
Hmm.
don't see that now because now there's this expectation of having everything, and it's just not like that. Not many people can afford to have everything immediately.
Yeah, no, I think on that, I'm like a bit of like a product vigilante. And again, it's like I know it's coming from my background where I've worked with manufacturing and distribution. Like for instance, and again, this is going to be a controversial comment to make, but like I purchase stuff from AliExpress. Granted, not really gel products per se. Most of the time, it's things like embellishments and like crones
Mhm.
or like things like that. And I think because I have worked with like white label brands or like distributors, I know that places like Alibaba, for example, like, manufacturers and distributors like those will be supplying some of the products that some of the brands that we buy from
Yes.
will be supplying the similar products. And
Yes.
so I think within the first year of me being a nail tech, I was like, I've seen this. Like, I'm honestly, like, I think, honestly, the first time I went on AliExpress, it was just out of sheer curiosity. And I ended up spending probably about 3 hours on there because I've been on Alibaba. I bought, like, I used to work in the gifting industry and, like, I know how, like, all of that works. So I'm looking
Hmm.
through, all of these products and I'm like, this is insane that there's just this platform that's selling products that are already in the market for cheaper and you can just buy them. But of course, the flip side of that meant that you'd have brands, some of them new brands and some of them established brands, launching products I know for a fact have come from very specific manufacturers.
Yeah.
And the markup is interesting. Now, I'm not going to take away from the fact that it does take time to source products, to test options of products, and then obviously to have those things branded. Like, I understand where that markup can be made up of.
Hmm.
Of course, sometimes there's a little, like Salt Bay in there. There's a little sprinkling that's maybe a bit extra. But even just the other day, actually, so I found a dupe of that Moonlight pigment from Magpie
Yeah.
on AliExpress. And that pigment itself was about £1.67. And that's even like post Brexit. So it's like, this is like more expensive now because for us in the UK, post Brexit, AliExpress is not what it used to be. For anyone who isn't aware, like
Yeah.
things are
But
more expensive now. But I saw that another brand, well-known UK brand, launched this very same pigment in this same packaging, not branded, right? For £12. And I was like, and that's honestly kind of my relationship with stuff quite a lot. Like one of my videos that I did on YouTube, I think was when the torty foil went really popular. Like it was like
yeah.
everywhere. And I remember I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like, let me go and check it out. I might buy it. And I went on the website of the brand that was selling it more specifically to begin with. And I was like, I know I can find this. Like, I know for a fact that I can find this product. And I'm not even kidding. Like, 10 minutes later, I had indeed found it. And they were selling one roll of this foil for, I think, the equivalent of like £7. And I managed to
Hmm.
buy 12 rolls of that foil for, I think, like £4.
Yeah.
So I understand that ethics on both sides, whether it's me buying like directly from the manufacturer or whether it's me buying from the brand. There are many things that are a bit, there's a gray area here, full stop. Like no one option is better than the other. But I do think that that's been a very eye-opening experience for me because I'm like, okay, like it's interesting to see how this industry is operating because I would see this a lot on the gifting side. But it also speaks to the point that we're making in that, like, in addition to that, there's so much pressure for people to be buying collections of products at very specific price points when they don't necessarily need to be at that price point. And so it's like there's this invisible pressure that you don't really need to be putting on yourself because, like you're saying, with things like art gels and pigments, like there is so much that you can do. Like, not necessarily going to buy the cheaper version, but like if you see, say, like a green art gel, do you have a blue, like a pigmented blue and a pigmented yellow in your kit? Can you try and mix that color? Like, more often than not, like if it's not a specialty product, I do think the thing that I hate that is somewhat lacking on Instagram specifically is this push for people to be really creative and like almost crafty with
Yes.
what they have. So yeah, sorry again, like
Yeah.
on a tangent, but
No, you're absolutely. Do you know what? You are the first person that I have had this conversation with that has noticed those things. I remember having this conversation with Sam, and he was like, "Do you know what? You need to make a video about it." And I was like, "Yeah, but I don't like. I don't want it to come across as shaming brands because it isn't.
yeah.
It's just saying, for example, I remember having stickers. Let's go with stickers.
Mhm.
These specific stickers even had the same code sticker in the middle that the ones from AliExpress had. They were exactly the same stickers. The thing is, one sticker cost me 29 pence. The other sticker cost me £3.
Yeah.
And I know that, £3, okay, but you've got UK, you're in the UK, so you'll get the UK delivery for free. And I get that. I understand that. But the thing is, when you're a beginner, that difference is massive.
It is. It's huge.
It's
Like
massive.
it's massive. Like it's you've got to invest. I don't think people quite understand. And again, this might like I'm not going to go on too much of a tangent, but when the conversations around like
Equally,
the cost of services start, I'm like, some people just have no idea how expensive nail things are. Because even though I know I can get things cheaper, like I knew I could get that Moonlight Chrome cheaper. Like I knew I could, but I was like, I'm gonna buy the one from Magpie because I'd also never bought from them. I was intrigued. I was like, let me just try it, you know. Also, more often than not, if you're buying from a regulated brand, you have more rights. So whether it's like your reaction to the products, but you can also be like, this is not what I paid for, you know, like there's more of a possibility of you kind of being like, can you please explain to me why this product isn't performing the way that it was advertised to perform type of thing. But it is interesting, I think, the way that people look at nail art. Like my sister, for example, she's from like she's from I guess like digital media side of things, but we both have a marketing background, both worked in fashion as well. And she's like, if I wasn't around you and I didn't see just how much money you spend on stuff, I would have been none the wiser. Like she would pick stuff up and be like, how much is this? And I tell her and she'd be like, what? And she's like, how often do you need to purchase it? Like acetone, for example. Like the bottle of acetone I've been buying since I started, and it's like my go-to acetone. It was like £4.50 during lockdown, which is when I kind of got into it, like the first lockdown. It's now £9.80. You know, just like little things like that that people don't consider. Like, and it's not a little thing, but it's like, you know, people just see this liquid and they're like, oh, you know, it's
yeah.
just like acetone. But it's like, think of how often independent nail techs and salons have to buy these essentials, and they are not cheap. And that's before we even got into things like specialty art gels. We've got into like brushes, e-files, like things are expensive. They're very expensive. So yeah, if you're starting out, I can't imagine how overwhelmed some people must get, like all these new collections, like and how much
And they're
everything costs. You would
constant as
just be
well.
like,
Constant as well. It's not like it's one
mm-hmm,
collection. It's like one collection, and then next month it's another collection of something else, and then next month it's another collection of something else. And when you are falling in love with a brand, um, you get to a point where like, oh yeah, but I want to have this, and then you're
yeah,
actually spending a lot more money than you're making.
mm-hmm,
All your money goes on the nail stuff. And I mean, I've been there, I've done that. I love my nail stuff. I love
yeah,
it. But
same.
looking back at it,
Mm-hmm.
it's nice being able to kind of go, come on, guys, you don't need to do this. Honestly, I had every single colour of the rainbow for clients, and I maybe used 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
So what's the point? Oh, it's because you have choices. Yeah, you have choices, but then those choices are sitting on the shelf, and after
Mm-hmm.
12 months of being opened or 24 months of being opened, you've got to get rid of them. They're out of date. What are you going to do about them? And if you're not creating content, you're not going to be putting that on clients.
No, no. Oh my God, that's so true. I have spoken to death about primary colors. Like it's honestly one of the things, it really breaks my heart when people feel like they need a full system. Now, of course, like if you can afford to get the lamp, the base gels, you know, like the essentials, fine. And then obviously there's like popular overlay colors that you can kind of try and have within your collection. But like when it comes to art gels, like people buying like all 35 colors, it actually makes me giggle sometimes when I see, because you know what, I get it. It's for convenience. There are some people who can afford to buy 4 different types of green, but you just do not
Yes.
need that. You really don't. Like, and I've also learned because I remember I first invested in art gels through Medusa, and it's because most of my favorite nail artists were using this brand, and the gels are just like unmatched for me. They're like my favorite gels to reach for. But if you try and mix the yellow and the blue together, you don't get a green, and it's purely just because of the way the pigments are set in those specific colors. So that's when I was like, I can buy a green. Like I can actually justify buying a green
Yeah.
here because you get like this weird muddy color. It's a green, but it's
Yeah.
not the green that we're going for, you know?
But that's
Like we'll be
different,
there
isn't
for a
it?
while, kind of trying to
Yeah.
make that happen. And I think that's really how it should be. Like you will come to a point where you realize actually, you know, if I'm an L tech, this is taking me too long, you know, like working through the color theory, getting my color wheel out, trying to make this color happen. If you can't do it quickly, then you can justify it. But most of the time, like I feel like there's so much that comes from that graft, like really learning to make those things happen because you just become way more creative as well. Like I think it really does aid you thinking more outside of the box rather than just like, oh, I have like all 50 colors, so like everything's gonna go fine. And actually, you might find even if you do have that orange, it's not the right shade of orange, so you're still gonna have to kind of
Yeah,
adapt it. So, what's the difference in just like mixing that color versus
do it.
buying three
Yeah.
versions of it and they're not the right version?
How do you find your unique style? Go.
Okay, so this one I can answer in short. I can't draw things. Like I can't draw things. That's like the best way to put it. Like I'm terrible at drawing shapes. Don't even ask me to draw a circle. In fact, you did a tutorial on how to draw a circle that absolutely blew my mind. And I was like, if this is, I feel like that's kind of, those are the things that I want to get better at, like being able to abstract. I think something that I used to see in graphic designers a lot, where they'd be like, oh, I need to like draw this building. I know that I need to put a combination of these shapes together to make that happen. Like my mind sometimes thinks like that, but it often just doesn't. So I think I've just my style is as a result of just needing to be more creative, like or being creative in other ways because I can't do character art. I am absolutely terrible at florals. Like, do not even speak to me about florals. Like, there are so many beautiful floral designs that even like that you've done yourself, so many. And I'm just like, where do you even no, but seriously, like I watch you create and actually you kind of talking about your process and like how you work with glitters and pigments. Because I talk about your work a lot to other friends as well, while I'm just like, if somebody puts glitters and flakes in front of me and I have no bloody clue what to do with them, like I literally look at them and I'm like, so like, what am I doing with this? And then I see one of your designs and I'm just like, well, of course. Like this makes perfect sense. Of course this is what you do with this. But I just would not think that way. So I think my style honestly is just like as a result of me kind of again, it seems to be my theme, but working with what I've got at the moment. Yeah.
Do you know what? I love that because it's such a refreshing attitude to have. Because it's not copying anyone, it's not wanting to have it all. It's not like you're researching everywhere, going, oh, I must be like this person because this person has a million followers, so I must do what they're doing. You're staying true to yourself. And I
Mm,
think that's amazing because
thank you.
we lack that. We do. There's so many people that come into the industry and go, oh, I want to be like so and so because they have so many followers, and I want to do this because so and so can do this, and they forget that journey in between, that journey of finding yourself, your own style, your own products that you like to work with, because not everyone works with the same things. I like sparkles. I love sparkles. So I am going to use sparkles in my work. The thing is, that's not going to be for everybody. Not everyone
Mm,
likes sparkles. Some people prefer just a plain manicure, which again, beautiful. I think
yeah,
that's
for
gorgeous. It's
sure.
got beauty of its own,
Mm.
but we are all different. And it's so nice to speak to somebody that has such a refreshing view of seeing what you can do and working with what you have. That's amazing. It really is. It's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I have my days with it. Like sometimes I'm like, why can't I draw Barbie? Like why can't I draw her contour? Why is that something I can't do? You know, like
Mhm.
why can't I draw the outline of this thing? And then other days I'm just like, you know what, this is nice. Like there's nothing wrong with this. Like this is me. And I'm sure I will only evolve. And like you say, like there's only one of each of us, right? Even though you have lots of incredible character artists in the nail community, in the nail industry, all of them are different. Very
Yeah,
rarely do you
yeah.
see character art that looks exactly the same. And I think even that in itself is really beautiful. So yeah, thank you. Thank you. That makes me feel better about that for sure.
No, you should. And the thing is also something that I would like people to think about a bit more as well is that even people that have been in the industry for years and years and years have times where we sit down in front of a nail and go, what is a nail?
Yeah.
Because you look at it and you go, I can't hold my brush today. I can't do lines. I can't do swirls. I can't. You just, your mind doesn't work that way sometimes. And it's
Mm-mm.
worth knowing that you don't always have to be perfect as well,
No.
because it's impossible. We're not perfect people.
Mm-mm.
It's impossible to try and be perfect every single time. And
Oh, for
sometimes
sure.
I look at those nails and go, I don't want to take a picture of those. I've done it on many occasions.
Yeah.
I
Same.
mine could have left, and I go to Sam and I go, hated that. They loved
Yeah.
it. They thought it was beautiful. I hated them. And it's just because you know your own abilities and you
Yeah,
know what you
we
can
know our
do. And when
strengths.
you haven't quite reached that goal that you have set yourself, you beat yourself up about it. Don't. People don't do it.
Hmm.
What's in the industry right now doesn't get talked about enough. Go.
There are so many things like that for me. I'd be like, that just imagine me opening a scroll and you think it's going to be like A4, but it's like super duper long. Like there's a
Well, it's
long
not.
list. No, truly. And this is gonna be a controversial thing to say, but it's been a real like hot topic for me. And I'm probably gonna have a hot take in there too. But I feel like we need to talk about ambassadorship programs now. And I
Listen,
can see your face, you're like, oh.
no,
But like
listen.
let me just, this is me speaking. I genuinely feel like some brands have very good intentions when it comes to their ambassadorship programs. However, some of them don't. And I think they're very intentional about not having good intentions. I dreamt of being a brand ambassador within the first year of getting into nail art. I thought it was like the pinnacle of feeling a part of the industry, a part of the community. However, you know what, I think about it now, like I've been extremely lucky. By the time I got approached for the first time to be a brand ambassador, I'd worked with a few brands and a couple of them had paid me, which was just unheard of because I wasn't even near 2,000 followers. Like it was really like it meant a lot to me that people saw that value in my work even at that point, because we know how much like your followers and etc like really play a part
Mhm.
in having access to those opportunities. But yeah, like I'd worked with brands and they've been very complimentary and they'd paid me and I'd set my price. And I've mentioned I come from a marketing background. I've booked influencers for like front row of fashion week, and I know what those things can cost. So when I was charging for myself, I was like, forget my followers. Like I'm gonna put a price on my labor, on my work. And I was like, I'm probably gonna get a lot of no's. And I have had a lot of no's, but some people have been like, sure, no questions asked. So when I got approached by this brand to be, and this is a brand that I love, like, and I still like them. Just again, it was one of those things where I was like, I'm not sure that this is right. So I get the contract, they approach me, I'm like, oh my God, thank you so much. Like, of course, would love to know more. So they send me the ambassadorship contract, and I respect that they've kind of drawn out a formal contract that you could read through, any stipulations, requirements, rules, restrictions, that kind of thing. I think I got to the section of like what would be required of you. There was a lot of work. There was a lot of labor required regarding promoting products, sales, etc. And I was like, oh, okay, so this must be paid, right? And again, this is me coming fresh from marketing side. So I'm like, there's no way, like, because I've worked with sales teams. This is sales. I'm like, this has to pay. So I'm scrolling and I'm like, where is the mention of money? I think I get to like the second to last page of this contract, and they stipulate that you are not allowed to work with any other brands. You are not allowed to partake in any paid or even just like gifting from other brands. You are not allowed to promote any other brands, especially in line with their brand. And I was like, no. I think it was like the first time I took the screenshot immediately and sent it to my sister, and she was like, is that legal? Like, they're expecting all of this work and you're not allowed to make any money whatsoever. So I went back and I had a really good conversation with them. I'm not really sure that they took much from it because so many people were already ambassadors for them. And why I was excited to work with them is because unlike a lot of the brands, because this is like pre the height of the Black Lives Matter movement. So like I was really surprised to see a brand that had a really diverse team of brand ambassadors. There were people who had disabilities, people who'd spoken about being neurodiverse, people from different marginalized backgrounds. So I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. But then obviously with that also, I was like, so wait, there's lots of people being taken advantage of here. And that didn't really change because they still have their ambassadorship product, like their program, and you can still see people just promoting their products and not much else. And then from then onwards, it was like a snowball effect. The amount of like contracts I came into contact with, or just asking the brand, like, what exactly is required of me. And the reason why I think there's an issue with this is because there's almost like an expectation, I think, from brands that creators must just create. Like it's almost as if nail artists and nail techs are like dancing monkeys, and I don't really like that. I think it's exploitative, and I also think it sets a pretty low bar for how creators will value their work. Because, of course, if from the beginning you were just in this mindset that you just work for free, because you could say, oh, people get products in exchange. Those products don't cost that much. If you're a startup, that's different. And again, everybody has, can make decisions at their own discretion, etc. But when you're a larger brand, like the cost of that product is not the same as the cost of the labor. You're coming up with the ideas, you're using your electricity, you're creating this, you've provided them with free content, free advertising, access to your audience. People used to get paid thousands of pounds for this. And so many people are doing it for free. And they've wrapped it in this like neat, nice little bow called ambassadorship programs. And I'm just like, it's very sneaky. But again, I have seen really good examples of these programs, and I know that there are very few, and I mean literally three brands that I'm aware of in the industry that actually pay their, like, and I mean all of their ambassadors. I'm not talking about the ones that pay some of them and not the others, because that's also pretty rampant, and has issues of its own. But yeah, I think that's something I'm really worried about, because with nail art and the nail industry becoming more commercial, people really wanting to learn how to do their own nails. And that obviously goes from wanting to do your own nails to maybe wanting to sell press-ons or wanting to become a content creator. What do you now have? You have this completely free workforce of people who are basically going to come into this thinking, oh, okay, so this is just what we do. And I really don't think it should be what we're doing. So I do think that's something that the industry and the community needs to talk about more. And in line with that, I'd say the only other thing that I think meshes into this is also what people charge for their services. And I don't mean like explicitly, I charge this, but if you could be like ballpark, with nail polish brands, like, and I notice this certainly, like when I've worked with nail polish brands, traditional nail polish brands, they pay very well. Gel polish brands might pay. If you're lucky, it's very rare. But if somebody could at least say, like, as somebody with 10,000 followers, I charge around the ballpark of £300 for a reel. I charge around the ballpark for, if it's a smaller brand, I'll charge them £100. Like, I feel like if there was some sort of guideline, that also ties into how people can avoid being exploited, like, people being taken advantage of. But unfortunately, yeah, no one's talking about it, whether it's on well, not enough people are talking about it, whether it's on like a community level or an industry level. Anyway, thank you for coming to my TED talk. That was quite a that was quite a speech. But yeah, it's been bugging me lately. I'm like,
when I think when kind of COVID hit and everybody was on the internet and you get to see more people and you get to work with people and the content creation kind of bloomed for people. I have noticed that there was a lot more kind of, oh, we need to be with this brand, or we need to be with this brand, and this brand is amazing. And it almost got to this point when I was looking at this, and this is probably the wrong word to use, but I was looking at these groups of different brands. It almost had like a cult feeling, that everyone was like, because it's this brand, so I must have everything from them. I must do everything they want. And the thing is, the amount of people I have spoken to that would say, oh, but I'm trying so hard and I'm posting content and they're not noticing me. They're not even reposting my stuff. They're not, I've messaged them. And you get to this point where it's like, I'm really sorry, but why are you trying so hard to basically provide more money for this company? Because that's what it is. You advertising their products for free as an ambassador, like you said. You're not allowed to, with most brands, you're not allowed to talk about any other brands. You're not allowed to basically do paid jobs with other brands. And it doesn't matter if that brand doesn't sell these things, you still can't promote it. So to me, that's ridiculous. But you can't get paid for that. You're not getting paid. And now let's take somebody like, for example, myself. I don't do clients anymore because I haven't got the
Hmm.
time for it. I homeschool my boy at home,
Hmm.
obviously homeschool, and then obviously looking after the home. I don't have time to see clients, which means
Hmm.
I don't have an income apart
Hmm.
from content creation jobs that come in and
Hmm.
education.
Hmm.
Now, if I'm not going to take content creation jobs because I can't take them because this other brand is saying, hey, you can't do that, then I'm losing money. Do you know what? I'm not going to chase after someone else's business. I'm
Hmm.
going to invest in my own business. I'm going to
Of
invest in
course,
myself because
yeah.
I can't take gel polish and
Mm-mm.
acrylic and
Mm.
my brushes and stickers to the council and hey, here you go. There's my council tax bill paid. It doesn't work.
No.
You need money to live. And when you're in that situation where, okay, maybe you're new, like you said, you're just starting out, it's brilliant. You get all these products, amazing. Maybe you're doing clients and you're a busy salon and you're doing clients all the time, brilliant. You're still getting paid, so you're getting these products that you don't have to pay for. Amazing, it works for you. So
Hmm.
I can understand that it works for some people,
Yeah.
but it seems that it's the kind of baseline for everybody. Like
Yeah.
everyone is measured with the same level, and it just doesn't work that way. And so you get to a point where you start thinking, well, my work isn't actually valued here at all because I'm putting out all this content to the people that trust me and recommend all these things. You're selling things out, you're running out of things that I have promoted,
Mm.
but I see no pennies from that. That's not okay. It's not. What do you do when somebody says to you, hey, you know all that stuff I sent you? Send it back.
Um, I would leave that person on red and go about my day because, I mean, legally, especially in the UK, especially with the new regulations, financially regulated by the law, when you are given a product in exchange for services, you are essentially paying to work in this country. So by all means, ask for your products back, but I'm not sending them back. And if you try to pull me up on that, what exactly are you going to use as a good reason to request for that back? Because and this is as somebody who's actually sent some stuff back to a brand because I was like, I'm not working with you and I'm very disappointed about how this has gone. You know, like that's coming from a person who was like, no, thank you. But with that, like you've done the work, you've helped them for free. Because especially, I'm assuming the only kind of person who would do that is big corporate brand, basically. Because smaller brands, I feel like, I don't know, it depends. It depends on who would do this, but like you've done the work. So what I don't, it's like, it's honestly like doing or like I'm trying to think of a good example, but like it's like using a pencil to write down notes as like a secretary. And then when you leave, they're like, can you give us some of that pencil back? Can you give us like how petty? That's so I can't has anyone done that? To what you were saying about like if a brand says, you know, if you have like a bad experience with a brand, whether you were parting ways with them after working with them or you know if you realize that something isn't for you, something I love that I'm starting to see more people say is like sometimes an opportunity looks good on paper but it doesn't feel right in your soul and you really need to listen to that. Like I just again like I could go on so many tangents, but wait, I'm going to tell one last story. I had a brand message me about an opportunity where they want, I'm trying to word this so that it doesn't expose the people who've worked with them, but they offered a deal that was garbage. And I mean, just like bottom of the barrel. And again, you just never know who you're going to strike lucky with. And I'm going to hope that the people that they've worked with have much larger platforms than me, like incredible work, insane. And I'm hoping that they went to them with a better deal because they have bigger platforms, but they basically wanted my work, like my identity, in exchange for 10% of profits. And I said, no, because that makes absolutely no sense. And I started seeing some of my other favorite nail artists post things about, like, sometimes you don't have to accept certain opportunities. And I was like, I wonder if this same brand has been in everybody else's DMs about these opportunities, because some things just aren't opportunities. Sometimes it really is just a brand taking a chance. And if you get an opportunity that comes to you and you are genuinely excited about that, like, I just want to be clear that, when I've spoken about like the brand ambassadorships, I did say there are some brands who mean well and they treat their ambassadors really well. But if something doesn't feel right to you, follow your gut. And if you are offended that a brand has come to you with a deal that's not reflective of what you know and perceive as your value, just, I think, try and find strength in the fact that you had, like, you had the discernment to be like, I'm worth more than this, because some people don't, and unfortunately they are taken advantage of. But yeah, I mean, if somebody asks you to create content in exchange for product, and you, like you said, have the means to do that, you can make the money elsewhere, it's convenient, do it. Like,
Yeah,
no one's shaming you for that, but it has to make sense and it has to work for you, I think.
exactly. I think that's the thing. It has to work for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not poo-pooing on ambassadorship. It's just
Mm-mm.
saying make sure that their ethos and their ethics line up with yours. This is your last question that I have posed for you. What
Mm-hmm.
is the one mistake that you have made in the past
Mm-hmm.
and learned from that you think could help others not to make themselves?
Don't compare yourself. Try your hardest. Like, it will be a work in progress. It will happen. It will come and go. Everyone has different levels of like self-assuredness. And I just think, like, if you can try your hardest to just focus on what you like, what you want to create, that's gonna shine out like way brighter than like you making yourself small. You didn't, like, minimizing your craft and like your abilities because you're looking at what other people are doing. And also, don't just assume that somebody's version of success is better than yours as well, because it really is subjective. Like I mentioned, being somebody who, when I look back on it, it's so funny, like the moments where I'm like, oh, like, what have you even done? Like, what have you achieved? Like, it's so, because, we have these moments. I think I mentioned to you that I am a deeply insecure person. And I, I stand in that. It's something I'm always working through. But yeah, like I think about the fact that, like, technically I got way more work before I reached 5K than I do now at 10K or whatever it is. Like, I try not to look at it, but like, yeah, like it's crazy that like, it can be so easy to be blindsided by what other people are doing, looking around us and looking behind us and not focusing on our own path. It will stunt you. Like, if you look at my first sort of 2 years as a nail artist, my output was like, because I was just so excited to create. Unfortunately, eventually, because of personal reasons, but also because of this, I just really started to doubt myself, and doubt and comparison, complete thieves of joy. Like, and you need that joy to create. Like, you really do, to create and just like really be inside it. Actually, my friend sent me this really, really great quote. Bear with me.
Give it to us.
I think it was Stan Lee who said it, but like, I look at this all the time now. So he said he was watching the Stan Lee documentary, and he said that he could never speak to everyone and find out what they wanted. All he ever knew was what he liked, what he would engage with, and that's what usually leads to meaningful success. Like, for many people, it might take a while, but it will sit right with you, and it's important to remember like why you're doing what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
why it's important to you. Don't try. I mean, and the honest part of it is you will. Like, we all do it. We will look around and be like, why am I not doing that? Or why didn't
Yeah.
I get that reception when I did something simple? Like, don't. Like, everything's so fickle. Social media is unbelievably fickle. Nothing means anything. Focus on what you love. Like,
Yeah,
literally. Yeah, biggest
absolutely.
mistake is comparing myself, I think.
I doubt myself too. And I think something that I found, that mistake that I made that I have learned from is I let people tell me
Mhm.
what will do well. And I let people tell me that, oh, you shouldn't be posting that because, people like this. And the thing is, you're
Yeah.
then taking that joy away from yourself and you're like you're almost forcing it. The thing is, you can tell. I can look back on my feed and I can tell when I posted stuff because I loved it. And I
Yeah,
can tell when I posted stuff because someone said to me, oh, you keep on posting this, maybe you should try this. The thing is, you need to stay true to yourself. You
for
need
sure.
to do what works for you and you
Hmm.
need to do what feels good. Because if you're forcing it, it's like with
Yeah.
any work, if you're forcing it, you'll be able to tell.
Oh
You're
yeah.
not going to be as good as if you're loving it, if you're passionate about it. Like for example, like we were discussing it earlier, like my plans for the future are to
Hmm.
focus on education. I love it. I love passing on what I know to other people
Hmm.
because I didn't have that.
Yeah.
When I first started nails, I didn't have that. I did a very short course, and afterwards, there wasn't really much support, and there was not many videos on YouTube that you could go and just kind of look at and learn how to do new things. That wasn't there. So now I want to kind of pass that on to people myself
Mhm.
as much as I can. That's my passion. And don't let other people tell you what you should be doing and what you
Yeah.
should be posting because your
Hmm.
goals are not the same as someone else's. Even if they're similar, they're not the same because you both have different situations at home. Behind the closed doors, what happens with you is different than so
Hmm.
and so down the road. So,
100%.
yeah, what feels good for you and what your goals are. And that's so hard because we all do it. We all look at other people and go, oh, but look at them. They're getting so many students or something along those lines. But the thing is, it's pausing in that moment and going, okay, where is this person? This person's in London, right? They're in London. Where are you? I am in Lincolnshire, which is in the middle of nowhere. You're going to have two different kind of, this doesn't happen, by the way. This is just a, random
It's a good example
observation.
though.
As a beginner coming into this, it's worth just stopping for a moment and going, okay, well, these are my circumstances.
Yeah.
What are my goals? And slowly work towards those goals. Don't let people tell you how to get to those goals because you know yourself best and you know how you work.
Mhm.
And I think that's a big thing I've learned personally.
I love that. I really love that. No, it's so true. Like there are so many moving parts and there's so much that people don't see as well. Like you might think that somebody's like flying high and that's not the case at all. But besides that, you just be selfish, focus on yourself, do what you love. Like let that be like, your leading fire. Don't try. I mean, there's nothing wrong with looking at what other people are doing and using that as
Yeah.
inspiration or motivation for where you want to go. But certainly don't use it as a marker for your value, like
Yes.
to everything that you were saying, like 100%. Amen. Love
Listen to
that.
her. No, well, the same thing is for me. The amount of times now that the amount of times seen her twice, Sean, and I have said to her, she is proof for me that I can be where I want to be in however
Mhm.
long. Because that's another thing. For
Oh,
example, Sean's been in the industry for, is it 17 years, I think? That's like, I've been in the industry, I think this year will be 9 years. That
mhm.
is a big chunk between us. You can't expect to
Yeah.
be in the same place
Mm-mm.
as someone else unless you get lucky. Because some people do, some people get lucky.
Some
Some
people
people
do
get
get lucky,
lucky.
that's
And
true.
yeah, so that does happen. But for most people, don't look at your year one and think, I want to be in someone else's year 17 because it doesn't work that way.
Mm-mm.
It takes a lot of hard work and small steps towards where you want to be. And also, over those next 16 years for that person, circumstances will change, roles
Yeah,
will change,
that's
what
true.
you
That's very
want will
true.
change. Life
That's very, very
changes.
true.
I feel like we've gone too
Preach,
deep now.
Sarah. It's true, and I feel like it's what a lot of people, I think sometimes I hear people having conversations like this completely unrelated to nail, the nail industry and the nail community. And it's just so important because I do think the messages are there, but sometimes it's hard to relate it back to exactly where you are. So I think being able to kind of I think share like where you've been, where you're at, and where you want to go, and kind of have the humility to be like, I get that like it's going to take a lot of work, and I know that like even though I've been in the industry for a long time, there's a lot that I want to work towards, and it may take a little bit longer. It might not. I might get lucky. Even just the conversation around luck is so important as well, because so much smoke and mirrors, I think, on social media.
Yeah.
It's very easy to think something should be going one way when actually you just never know. So it's deep, but it's necessary, I would say.
Yeah, it is. Are you still going to be doing your YouTube?
I hope to. So I'm in two minds about that, because that there's a lot of work. It is a lot
Yes.
of work. Because initially I started the channel just to kind of like document my progress. And then people actually started watching my videos, and I was like, okay. So yeah, I think I have been toying with starting a Patreon, just
Yes.
to kind of be able to help me finance that, like, to
Mhm.
be, because just financially, physically, labor wise, I mean, electricity in this country, if we're being 100% real, like, all of these things add up. So I need to be able to justify that time, because it's different if I'm just sat at my table for like, a few hours with a couple of lights on and my lamp on and I'm doing my nails. But it's like studio lights and all this other stuff. And like, it's become way more than what it was.
Yeah.
So for me to even just evolve past where I'm at in regards to things like my setup, to be able to dedicate those, like, woman hours and
Mhm.
sit here and do that, I need to justify it. So I'm gonna, I'm gonna put it to my subscribers, I think, next week, possibly in my next video, and see how they feel about that, because I would like to keep doing it. Out of the two, I don't know how present I'm going to be on Instagram, to be completely honest, but I would love to keep doing YouTube because I do really enjoy it.
When I message people, because there's only a few people that know about this, because not many people know that I'm thinking of doing this.
Oh,
I was
thank
like,
you.
yeah, half an hour, people. I just need half an hour of your time.
Oh
The thing
no!
is, you've been so easy to talk to. I don't mind that. And the thing is, it's fine. We can do 2 parts and stuff. It's fine. People will
Okay,
get a
I
little
like that.
snippet, and then they're going to have to wait another week until they get another snippet. It's fine.
Nice. I do like that. I like that a lot. I like your thinking.
Yeah.
Oh, this has been very enjoyable. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm very honored. Very, very honored.
Thank you. I'm honored that you like said yes. It's you're busy, and then we had a little hiccup, and then you did find some more time for me. So I am really really grateful for that.
My
Um,
pleasure.
and I'm grateful for all the topics that we touched on, because I feel like there's a lot that doesn't get talked about, and I think sometimes it's easy to hide away from those topics. It really is, because you don't want the stress on you. You don't want the kind of
Mm,
backfire from people, and
mm.
but I think certain things need to be talked about. So let's see how this
Agreed.
goes. A little bit
I'm
of
very excited. I'm very
controversy,
excited to tune in.
but thank you so much. Thank you for your time. I really, really appreciate it. Really
My
appreciate it.
pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you. Like I said, huge honor. I love your work. I was so excited when you reached out to me to yeah, to be on, is it Coffee and Cuticles? Cuticles and Coffee.
Cuticles and coffee.
That's the one. Cuticles and Coffee. Like, yeah, no, this is a big honor, and I'm very excited for this format, because I think it being like nice and laid back, there's probably going to be
Yeah.
lots of really cool conversations about different things. So besides me even being on, I'm just very excited to tune in. So thank you.
Did I not tell you? She is incredible and she's so nice. So what do you think about ambassadorships yourself? And if you haven't heard of Mutsa before, what do you think of her work? Isn't she incredible? I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you all soon with another episode from another incredible nail artist.
That beauty might save the world.